The digital plague known as Galdrux.com had festered within the sprawling veins of the internet, a purulent node of cryptic disquiet that drew the curious and the unwary into its unsettling embrace. It wasn't the garish spectacle of gore or the blatant commerce of the forbidden that defined its dread reputation, but a far more insidious malignancy, a creeping sense of fundamental wrongness, a digital effluvium of distorted sensory input and fragmented textual utterances that whispered of realities lying just beyond the flimsy barricades of human perception. Imagine, if you dare, the late-night stumble upon this digital abyss, the cold luminescence of your monitor painting the familiar contours of your sanctuary in sickly, elongated shadows. The initial encounter might be deceptively mundane, a stark, almost clinical presentation of digital emptiness punctuated by fleeting, jarring intrusions. Then, the tendrils of unease begin to coil. A photographic representation of an object known and commonplace, yet subtly, sickeningly contorted, as if viewed through a lens warped by forces unknown. An auditory file that commences as a benign hiss of static, only to coalesce into a guttural susurrus that seems to resonate not in the ear, but deep within the spongy architecture of the brain, stirring primal anxieties. Textual remnants, fractured and disjointed, that read like echoes of a forgotten tongue, hinting at blasphemous rites and primordial entities that slumbered before the dawn of human history. Picture a young cybersecurity analyst, a child of the digital age, initially drawn to the website's enigma with a detached curiosity, only to find himself gripped by a gnawing paranoia as the pixelated images on the screen seem to subtly writhe and shift in his peripheral vision. He begins to discern patterns within the seemingly random alphanumeric strings, patterns that whisper of impossible geometries, of non-Euclidean angles that subtly infect the familiar cityscape he navigates daily, of cyclopean foundations buried beneath the asphalt and steel of his modern existence. The pervasive association with the deep web only amplified the encroaching dread. This was not merely an eccentric art project relegated to the obscure corners of the surface internet. It felt like a forced glimpse into a substratum of reality where the comforting axioms of the natural world and the fragile constructs of human sanity held tenuous sway. The hushed pronouncements in the shadowed corners of online forums spoke of those who had ventured too far into the Galdruxian labyrinth, individuals who claimed to have unearthed unsettling correspondences with tangible events, with whispered accounts of profane rituals hinted at in the website's cryptic iconography. These were not detached academics poring over forbidden grimoires. These were ordinary souls, their lives gradually being envenomed by the digital contagion of Galdrux.com, their tenuous grasp on consensual reality loosening with each unsettling revelation gleaned from the screen. The interpretations that veered into the occult and the esoteric added another layer of skin-crawling apprehension. The bizarre symbols were not merely abstract designs. They resonated with something ancient and deeply unsettling within the human psyche, stirring atavistic fears of forces that predate consciousness, hinting at forgotten pacts struck in epochs before mankind walked the earth, and the slumbering forms of entities whose awakening could shatter the delicate equilibrium of the modern world. This was not a detached intellectual exercise in deciphering arcane. It was a primal, gut-level terror of forces utterly beyond human control or comprehension, of a cosmos teeming with indifferent, colossal powers that regarded humanity with an apathy bordering on contempt. The persistent speculation that Galdrux.com was merely a node in an elaborate alternate reality game, a complex online puzzle designed to engage and intrigue, offered a fleeting semblance of rationalization, a desperate attempt to categorize the encroaching digital horror within the familiar framework of entertainment. Yet, even this theory was tainted with a King-esque paranoia, a creeping suspicion that the game itself might be a mask for something far more sinister. What if the creators harbored motivations that transcended mere amusement? What if the very act of engaging with Galdrux.com constituted an unwitting form of participation in a dark and unknowable endeavor? And then there was the spectral echo of the Game 23, a phantom whisper in the digital void, a fleeting connection that offered no solace or illumination, only a further descent into the abyssal depths of the unsettling unknown. It was like a half-recalled nightmare clinging to the edges of consciousness, a momentary glimpse of something vast and terrifying lurking just beyond the readily perceived contours of the Galdrux.com enigma. The mystery of Galdrux.com was not a neatly bound narrative with a discernible beginning, middle, and end. It was a raw, suppurating wound in the digital flesh of the internet, a persistent, unsettling echo of cosmic indifference and the lurking horrors that dwell in the spaces between what is known. It was a nexus point where the immediate unease of a bizarre website bled seamlessly into the profound and sanity-shattering dread of a universe teeming with entities whose very existence mocked the limitations of human understanding, leaving the hapless investigator not merely frightened, but with a gnawing, persistent sense that the comfortable reality they inhabited was a fragile, temporary construct teetering on the precipice of unimaginable and eternal horrors.